Niobium body piercing jewelry. Pros, cons, advantages, disadvantages. We're going to talk about it next on Pros and Cons by a Piercer, Season 2, Episode number 69. For those who are new to the channel, welcome to the Body Piercing and Tattooing channel. Hope you're enjoying the videos. Hope you find them helpful and useful, but you may not know who I am. My name is DaVo. I'm a professional body piercer and have been since 1994. I own and I operate the Axiom Body Piercing Studio, located right here in Des Moines, Iowa, inside Skin Kitchen Tattoo. Now, the material we're going to be talking about today is niobium. Niobium is a somewhat rare metal. It is part of the elemental chart. It is an element. And in most cases, when we're talking about body piercing jewelry, for what we want for implant grade would be 99% pure. When I first started in the industry back in 1994, it was pretty much the standard, either stainless steel or implant grade stainless steel or niobium. If you had the money, gold, titanium had just started to kind of become more normalized, but at that time, in the mid-90s, was still very expensive and still pretty rare. So niobium kind of filled that place for those that were allergic to nickel. But at some point, due to some of the flaws that are involved with niobium that we'll get to later, some of the cons, it kind of fell off in popularity. Now, pretty much everything is either implant-grade steel or it's titanium. But for those rare people out there that have a sensitivity to titanium, it is a good option for them. So that's where we're going to go through this, and it comes up occasionally. You'll see jewelry, niobium jewelry for sale. Number one, now let's start with the pros. Number one, extremely biocompatible. In the almost 30 years that I've been piercing, in 30 plus years that I've been involved in the body art and body piercing industry in some way, shape, or form, as either a customer or a practitioner, I have yet to see any or document a case of anyone that was allergic to niobium or saw one in person. If it is 99% pure, your chances of being allergic to it are very, very slim, which makes it right up there with gold as far as being something that is very biocompatible and very body-friendly. It is the only metal that's used in body piercing that can be anodized into a black color. It's not usually what you would have. It's not like that plastic, clear, shiny, latexy black, kind of a matte black or almost a charcoal. They get this by just anodizing it at a point where it burns, actually almost like a carbon layer on the top of it. Unlike other processes where they're plating it with something or using something to coat it with, this would be more biocompatible than those possibly or aren't, possibly are. And anodizing, which means you can get fabulous different colors from pinks, blues, and greens all the way up to multicolored stuff and etc. It was like the go-to back in the day for colored jewelry. Most of the stuff you saw in the 90s was, in fact, niobium. Number 4, easy to bend. It's easier to bend than titanium. It's a little bit softer, not quite as brittle, so it makes it a little bit more pliable and easier to use for things like seamless rings or cat bead rings or anything that it's easy to bend or needed to bend to put in the jewelry easily. Number 5, tends to be very durable, even though it's a bit on the softer side. If you has a high enough polish on it, this stuff can last forever. You're probably going to see the anodization fade over time, but for the most part, very durable. Now let's move on to the cons. Number 1, the rarity of the metal. As I understand it, there was some new practical use for niobium that came about in the late 90s. There was kind of a gold rush effect. And from some of the information that I've gotten over the years, it got very difficult for a while there to get niobium wire that's used in making rings and etc. So that was one of the reasons why we saw a shift to titanium. The other thing is that titanium has a whole load of other benefits that niobium doesn't have. We'll get to that a little further as we go into more of the cons. Number 2, doesn't thread easily because it is softer and not quite as durable as titanium or implant grade steel. It's more difficult to thread things into it that aren't going to strip out. I don't know how many times I've seen niobium jewelry like barbells and etc. that it just simply stripped out after about a month or 2 of use, just basically because that metal is too soft. Number 3, this is probably the reason why you don't see a lot of niobium jewelry anymore. It is not easy to connect pieces together. As I understand it, you're kind of limited by designs. It works really well in something like a ring or something that is smelted as one solid piece. When you start getting into things like labre posts or barbells or hinge rings or anything where there's moving parts and you're attaching them by soldering them, it doesn't work well. It tends to not be something that everybody can do and can be extremely difficult to work with to the point where you have a level of loss of material on a regular basis. I'm not exactly sure because I'm not a jewelry maker, but this is what I've been told. So you're kind of limited. It works really great for rings, things like that, where you have just like one solid piece. But for other more common pieces we use now, like labre studs, labre or threadless ends, all that stuff, and threaded jewelry, it just doesn't work as well because of all those parts that need to be connected. Number 4, heavier than other jewelries. Niobium is going to be heavier than any other metal that we use, including gold, from what I can remember. So it's not something because you're dealing usually with rings, which means more mass. They can be a little weighty. The last one is that a lot of things, especially sold by low-end manufacturers claiming that it's niobium, isn't 99% pure. Without the third-party certificates, it's very difficult to know the difference between something that is partial niobium alloy or something, or plated or etc. Because a real common thing is to take steel and plate it with a thin layer of niobium and then sell it as niobium. Or colored titanium or colored stainless steel. It's really easy to counterfeit is what I'm getting at. So unless you're buying from a very reputable business, I would be very leery of anything that's going to be super cheap or is claiming to be made of 100% niobium. So, in other words, do your research, kids, before you buy. Well, that's it. Have any of you had any experience using niobium jewelry? What was your take from it? Advantages, disadvantages, what have you? Leave a comment. Till next time, here's hoping all your piercings heal with ease and without a single issue. And if you're in the Des Moines, Iowa area, I hope to see you for your body piercing needs in the future. Have a good day, everybody. Take care, and we'll see you in the next video, possibly one of these.